I built a $900,000 home from my business money, and my husband showed up with papers saying it was community property. The words didn't even sound real when Ryan dropped the folder on my brand new dining table. Fresh paint still clung to the walls, the last curtain rod had barely cooled from the drill, and already he was carving the house in half. I stared at him, my mouth dry. "You can't be serious." He leaned back in the chair I'd picked out, his arms crossed. "Dead serious. In this state, marriage means half. My lawyer says the paperwork just makes it official." My laugh came out sharp, bitter. "Your lawyer?" "Or Judith's." As if on cue, the front door opened. Judith swept inside like a queen entering her castle. Not mine, hers. Pearl necklace, crocodile handbag, eyes glinting with triumph. "Well," she said, looking around, "it turned out even better than I expected." "Expected?" I snapped. "You didn't lift a finger." She gave me a pitying smile. "Oh, Vanessa. You don't understand how these things work. The law protects family. And Ryan is family. Half of everything you own is his by right. Which means, naturally, half is mine too." I nearly choked. That's not how marriage works. That's not how anything works. Ryan slid the folder closer to me. "Sign it, Vanessa. Stop being difficult." I opened the folder. My stomach dropped. Inside were bank slips showing supposed joint contributions from Ryan toward the construction. Contracts with his name typed neatly beside mine. Even my signature on one of the invoices. I shoved it back at him. "This is fake. I never signed any of this." Judith leaned over, her perfume heavy. "Stress makes people forget. Women, especially. Maybe you signed when you were tired." The audacity made my vision blur. "Stress doesn't forge documents." Ryan slammed his palm on the table. "You think a judge will believe you over notarized paperwork? Grow up." The doorbell rang. For a split second, I thought it was a neighbor. Instead, it was worse. A man in a suit walked in behind Judith. "Good evening, Mrs. Cole. I'm Mr. Livingston, legal counsel for Ryan and his mother." He set his briefcase down on the marble counter I'd paid for. "I'm here to review the initial claim of community ownership." I froze. "You brought a lawyer into my house?" Judith smiled sweetly. "Our house, dear." The lawyer pulled out more documents, sliding them across the table like cards in a rigged game. "These show joint marital assets allocated to property construction. Standard filing. If you refuse to sign, we'll let the court handle it." Ryan leaned in, smirking. "And you know how court goes. Judges don't like greedy wives." My blood ran hot. "Greedy? I worked 70-hour weeks. I wrote every check. You were sitting at home writing songs nobody listens to." Judith gasped theatrically. "How dare you speak to him like that? He's an artist. You think money is the only thing that matters." "Funny," I shot back. "Money seems to matter plenty now that the house is finished." The lawyer cleared his throat. "Mrs. Cole, if you fight this, you risk losing more than the house. Courts can freeze your business assets until the matter is settled. I advise cooperation." The room tilted. My business. My income. My independence. All of it hanging by forged signatures and smug smiles. That night, after they left, I sat on the bare wood floor of the living room. The house I'd built was supposed to be my triumph. Instead, it already felt like a crime scene. Judith's perfume still lingered in the air. Ryan's words echoed like poison. "Half is mine." I opened my laptop and started pulling every receipt, every invoice, every contract signed under my company's LLC. If they wanted a war, I'd give them one. They thought I'd just roll over. That I'd hand them $500,000 because Judith brought a lawyer to dinner. But I hadn't built this house to lose it. And I sure as hell wasn't finished fighting. The envelope landed on my porch like a grenade. Superior Court of Silverwood County, summons and complaint. Judith hadn't wasted a day. The ink on the curtains was still drying, and already she'd dragged Ryan to her lawyer's office and filed for division of assets. I flipped through the pages. Plaintiff, Ryan Cole. Co-plaintiff, Judith Cole. Claim, community ownership of the Silverwood property. My stomach dropped. They weren't just circling like vultures. They'd already sunk their claws in. 2 weeks later, I walked into the courthouse, my heels echoing against marble. I thought I was prepared. Folder of receipts, business invoices, contracts from my LLC. Proof, black and white, that every dime had come from me. But the moment I stepped into the courtroom, I saw Judith in the front row, dressed in navy silk, pearls glowing, like she was at a gala instead of a legal proceeding. Ryan sat beside her, pale but smug, nodding along as their attorney, Livingston, organized a neat stack of papers. The judge adjusted her glasses. Case number 27 to 3541. Ryan Cole and Judith Cole versus Vanessa Cole. Allegation: improper withholding of marital assets. My throat went dry. Improper withholding. As if I'd stolen from them. Livingston rose smoothly. Your Honor, my clients have submitted evidence showing that Mr. Cole contributed financially to the construction of the property in question. We have bank transfers, receipts, and documented withdrawals from a joint account. He placed the stack on the clerk's desk. The judge flipped through the first pages. Mrs. Cole, she said, glancing at me. How do you respond? I stood, heart hammering. With respect, Your Honor, these documents are fabricated. The property was built solely with funds from my company, Cole Consulting LLC. I have every receipt, materials, labor, contractors, paid directly from my account. I walked forward and handed her my folder. My hands shook, but my voice was steady. The plaintiffs never contributed a cent. The judge leafed through my contracts, her expression unreadable. Then she looked at Livingston. Your documents show transfers from a joint Wells Fargo account. Did Mrs. Cole authorize this account? Livingston smiled. She did, Your Honor. Her signature is on the application. The bailiff handed me a copy. My stomach dropped. There it was, my name, my handwriting, my signature. Except I had never signed it. I looked up at the judge, panic rising. This isn't mine. I didn't open this account. Judith gasped theatrically. Oh dear. Is she accusing her husband of forgery? How cruel. Ryan shook his head, face full of wounded innocence. She's under so much stress, Your Honor. She doesn't remember signing. But I was there. She filled out the forms. She even said, it's just paperwork. My chest burned. That's a lie. The judge raised a hand. Enough. Allegations of forgery are serious. If you wish to contest the authenticity, you'll need a handwriting expert and forensic review. Until then, the documents stand. Judith's smile spread slow and triumphant. And then Livingston twisted the knife. Additionally, Your Honor, we've discovered irregularities in Mrs. Cole's business accounts. Loans taken under her name, balances unpaid. We believe this shows her company lacks the liquidity to finance a $900,000 property independently, which strongly suggests family contributions. My heart sank. Unpaid loans? Balances? I hadn't taken out a cent. But the paperwork he held up, credit card statements, auto loans, even a small business loan application, had my name on them. The judge's brow furrowed. Mrs. Cole, are these accounts yours? No. My voice cracked. I never opened those. They're not mine. Ryan leaned close to Judith, whispering just loud enough for me to hear. She's unraveling. The judge tapped her pen against the bench. For now, we will allow the plaintiff's evidence to remain in record. Mrs. Cole, you'll have 30 days to provide proof to the contrary. If you cannot, the presumption will be that the Silverwood property is community marital property. My stomach twisted. 30 days. To prove I wasn't lying. To prove the house I built wasn't theirs. The gavel cracked. Court adjourned. As the room emptied, Judith brushed past me, her perfume thick and suffocating. She leaned close, whispering so only I could hear. You can fight receipts with receipts. But you can't fight family. The judge will believe us. Then she smiled sweetly at the bailiff, as if she hadn't just gutted me alive. That night I sat on the floor of the Silverwood house, the summons spread out around me. They'd forged accounts, stolen my signature, buried me under fake debt. But one thing Judith didn't know, I'd never play fair. She wanted war. She was about to get it. I sat in the bank lobby with a folder clutched to my chest like a shield. The marble floor gleamed, The air smelled like disinfectant and money, and every second felt like waiting for a sentence. A clerk finally called my name. Mrs. Cole. I followed him into a glass-walled office. His name tag read Daniel, his smile stiff but polite. He opened his computer. What seems to be the issue? I slid the summons across the desk. These documents list joint accounts in my name, but I never opened them. Daniel frowned and typed quickly. His eyes scanned the screen. You're listed as primary account holder on 3 accounts. 2 checking, 1 credit. My throat tightened. That's impossible. He swiveled the monitor toward me. There it was, my name, my social security number, my signature at the bottom of the forms. I shook my head, my pulse pounding. That's not my signature. I didn't sign those. Daniel leaned in, lowering his voice. Mrs. Cole, the system shows these accounts have been active for over a year. Regular transactions. Withdrawals. Even deposits tied to building contractors. My stomach turned. Withdrawals? From where? He clicked through the ledger. Transfers from your joint marital account. It looks like money was moved to pay construction invoices. Materials. Labor. My hand shook. No. All my invoices came from Cole Consulting LLC. Those payments weren't from a joint account. They were from my business. Daniel's expression didn't change. All I can tell you is what's here. And what's here says otherwise. I leaned across the desk, my voice breaking. Then someone forged this. Someone opened these accounts in my name. Can't you see that? He hesitated, then tapped the screen. The signatures match the one we have on file from your driver's license. I blinked. Excuse me, your license was scanned when the accounts were opened. My stomach dropped. My license had gone missing last year for 3 days. Ryan had brushed it off, probably left it in the car, babe. Now I knew exactly where it had gone. Daniel's voice dropped lower. Mrs. Cole, I'll be frank. This kind of case doesn't end at the bank. If the documents hold and you claim fraud, it becomes federal. Identity theft. False reporting. Courts don't like messy stories. I stared at him. So you're saying what? If I fight, I look like the criminal. He didn't answer. His silence said enough. Back home, I spread the bank statements across the kitchen table. Ryan strolled in, glanced at the papers, and smirked. Still digging? The judge already has those. You can cry forgery all you want, but nobody's gonna believe you. I spun to face him. You stole my license. You opened accounts in my name. He shrugged. Prove it. Judith appeared in the doorway, sipping coffee like it was a show. Vanessa, stop embarrassing yourself. You'll only make the judge angrier. My voice shook with rage. You forged everything. You made it look like I used joint money for the house. Judith's smile was razor-sharp. And the best part? Even if you prove forgery, you'll drown in the meantime. The bank says the accounts are yours. That's enough to freeze assets. Contractors don't wait forever. The phone rang. Unknown number. I picked up. A cold voice on the line. Mrs. Cole? This is Delmar Collections. We're calling about your overdue business loan. Payment of $47,000 is required immediately. My hand went numb. What loan? Opened last year, in your name, tied to your joint account. Payments missed for 3 months. This is your final warning before legal action. I glanced at Ryan. He was grinning. Judith whispered, told you, dear. The more you fight, the worse it gets. I hung up, shaking so badly the phone almost fell from my hand. Fake accounts. Fake loans. Fake debts. All under my name. The walls of the house seemed to close in on me. My dream home, the one I built brick by brick, was becoming the perfect weapon to bury me alive. But Judith was wrong about one thing. I wasn't drowning. I was learning how to swim with sharks. The first envelope arrived on a Monday. Overdue notice, Visa Platinum. Balance, $18,432. I didn't own a Visa Platinum. By Wednesday, there were 5 more. Auto loan delinquency. A student loan statement from the University of Michigan, where I had never studied. Even a notice from a furniture store in Ohio, thanking me for financing a luxury sectional. I spread them across the counter like tarot cards spelling my ruin. Every debt was mine. My name, my social security number, my address. Ryan leaned over them, sipping his coffee. Wow, he said casually. Looks like your little business isn't doing so hot after all. My chest tightened. This isn't mine. These are fake. Judith appeared in the doorway, her voice syrupy and cruel. Oh, honey, creditors don't make mistakes like that. Maybe you've been hiding things from us. Maybe your company isn't as profitable as you pretend. I snapped. You know exactly what this is. You did this. Both of you. Judith only smiled, eyes glinting. And what judge will believe that? By Friday, the call started. Mrs. Cole, this is Chase Bank. Your account is $7,000 past due. Mrs. Cole, this is Capital Auto. Your vehicle is scheduled for repossession. Mrs. Cole, this is Navient. Your student loan has entered default status. I slammed the phone down each time, my pulse racing faster, my palms damp. Ryan watched me unravel, his expression smug. The way I see it, he said, if your business is buried in debt, there's no way you paid for this house alone. Which means it's community property. Which means half is mine. Judith nodded approvingly, like he was reciting lines she'd fed him. Exactly. The evidence speaks for itself. And judges, they don't like liars. Saturday morning, I woke to pounding at the door. Two men in suits stood on my porch, clipboards in hand. Mrs. Cole, one asked. Yes, I said cautiously. We're here from Del Mar Recovery Services. You've defaulted on a line of credit. Court action is pending. We need to confirm assets for seizure. Ice flooded my veins. I don't have a line of credit with you. He tapped the clipboard. You do now. $52,000. Opened last year. We'll need to catalog property inside the home. I blocked the doorway. You're not coming in. The man's eyes hardened. Then we'll get a court order. Behind me, Judith's voice floated down the stairs. Is everything all right, officers? Not officers. Credit collectors. But she said it loudly, sweetly, for the neighbors to hear. The men glanced at her, then back at me. We'll be back. The moment the door shut, Judith descended the stairs, all silk and smugness. Well, she said, that was embarrassing. You should have let them in. At least then they'd see this place is worth something. I rounded on her. You're enjoying this. You want me buried under debt so you can claim the house. She didn't deny it. Instead, she leaned close, whispering like sharing a secret. Darling, if you can't prove you paid for it, then you didn't. And the court will see it my way. Ryan's laugh echoed behind her. Face it, Vanessa. You're sinking. And when you go down, you're taking this house with you. That night I sat at my desk, the stack of fake debts looming over me. Every notice screamed failure. Every call chipped at my sanity. But then I saw it. A pattern. The credit card numbers, the loan account IDs, every single one was tied back to the same mailing address. Not mine. Judith's P.O. box. The courtroom smelled like old paper and dusted carpets. I sat at the defendant's table, my folder of invoices clutched so tightly my knuckles ached. 30 days of fighting, 30 nights without sleep, and still Judith found new ways to twist the knife. The bailiff called the case. Cole versus Cole. Property division. The judge adjusted her glasses, her tone dry. Plaintiffs continue. Livingston, Judith's attorney, rose with a thin smile. Your Honor, we would like to call a witness. A man who can corroborate Mr. Cole's direct financial contributions to the construction of the property. My chest tightened. What witness? The back doors opened. An older man shuffled in, Mr. Whitaker, our neighbor from across the street. Judith's longtime friend. Retired. Always gossiping. My stomach dropped. He raised his hand, swore the oath, and settled into the witness chair. Livingston nodded. Mr. Whitaker, please tell the court what you observed during the construction of the Cole residence. Whitaker cleared his throat. Well, I live across the way. I saw Ryan out front often. Sometimes he'd meet with the contractors. More than once, I saw him hand over cash envelopes. Judith clasped her hands like a saint in prayer. Ryan lowered his gaze, looking almost humble. Livingston spread his arms. So, in your own words, Mr. Whitaker, Ryan was directly paying for the construction? Yes, sir, Whitaker said firmly. I saw it with my own eyes. Gasps murmured through the courtroom. I shot to my feet. That's a lie. The judge banged her gavel. Mrs. Cole, control yourself. I turned desperately to the bench. Your Honor, he's Judith's friend. He's biased. Ryan never paid anything. Not a dime. Judith leaned toward me, whispering through a smirk. The more you scream, the guiltier you look. Ryan's attorney slid a stack of supposed receipts across the table. Cash withdrawals. Handwritten notes. All consistent with our witness's testimony. The judge frowned at me. Do you have evidence to refute this, Mrs. Cole? My throat closed. My invoices felt paper-thin compared to the performance unfolding against me. For the first time, I thought, maybe they'll win. Maybe I'll lose everything. Then the doors opened again. A man in a hard hat and dusty work boots stepped inside, holding a folder thicker than a Bible. My breath caught. Your Honor, my attorney said quickly, this is Mr. Alvarez, lead contractor on the Silverwood property. We asked the court to hear his testimony. Livingston tried to object, but the judge silenced him with a glare. Proceed. Alvarez approached the stand. His voice was calm, steady, the voice of a man who worked with his hands and didn't care for lies. I supervised every stage of Mrs. Cole's house. All contracts, all payments came directly from her company, Cole Consulting LLC. Checks, not cash. I have copies here. He lifted the folder. Page after page of invoices, each one stamped, signed, and bearing my company's letterhead. The judge examined them, her expression shifting from suspicion to something colder, recognition. Mr. Alvarez, she said, did Mr. Cole ever make payments to you or your crew? Alvarez shook his head firmly. Never. Not once. The only person who paid us was Mrs. Vanessa Cole. And we have no record of cash payments at all. The courtroom buzzed. Judith's smile faltered. Ryan shifted in his seat, pale. Livingston shuffled his papers, flustered. I exhaled for the first time in weeks. Proof. Real proof. I turned to Ryan, my voice low enough for only him to hear. Funny thing about construction work, people keep receipts. His jaw clenched. The judge tapped her gavel. The court accepts these documents into evidence. The testimony of Mr. Whitaker will be weighed against verified contracts and invoices. She fixed Ryan with a sharp glare. So far, Mrs. Cole's documentation appears significantly more credible. Judith leaned forward, hissing in my ear as we rose to leave. Enjoy your little victory. It won't last. I gathered my folder, my heart still pounding. For the first time in weeks, I felt something stronger than fear. Hope. But hope is fragile. And I knew Judith wasn't finished. The courtroom was colder than usual, the hum of the fluorescent lights echoing above us. I sat at the defense table, every muscle tight, my folder of documents heavy in my lap. For weeks, Judith and Ryan had paraded their lies like gospel, fake debts, fake witnesses, fake signatures. Each time, the judge had looked at me with thin patience, as though I were drowning in excuses. But today, I had something different. Something they couldn't forge. The bailiff called the case to order. Livingston, Judith's slick attorney, rose first. Your Honor, as previously shown, my client's documents clearly establish financial contribution. At this point, we see no reason for further delay. We ask that the Silverwood property be declared marital and subject to equal division. Judith sat tall in her navy suit, pearls glinting, her smile calm and triumphant. Ryan mimicked her composure, though his knee bounced under the table. The judge turned to me. Mrs. Cole, do you have anything new to submit before I make my ruling? I stood slowly. Yes, Your Honor. I do. I lifted the folder and crossed the courtroom, heels echoing on the tile. From inside, I drew a bound stack of contracts, each one stamped, signed, and notarized. These are the original agreements for the Silverwood build, I said clearly. Each one tied to Cole Consulting LLC, notarized by state officials, and filed with the county clerk. They show every payment, materials, labor, subcontractors, made directly from my business account. The judge adjusted her glasses, leaning forward as the clerk handed her the stack. She flipped through slowly, page by page. And here, I continued, placing another stack beside it, are certified bank statements from Wells Fargo Business. Month-by-month transactions, pulled directly by the bank. Deposits from clients. Withdrawals to contractors. Every dollar accounted for. Livingston rose, his face stiff. Your Honor, we object. The judge silenced him with a raised hand. She lifted one of the fake receipts Judith had filed earlier, the kind Whitaker had sworn were real. She compared it to the notarized contracts, her lips twitching. Mr. Livingston, she said finally, her tone cool, the handwriting on this so-called receipt looks suspiciously identical across multiple dates. And unlike Mrs. Cole's documents, these lack notarization or official stamps. A ripple of laughter spread through the gallery. The judge hid her own smile behind her glasses. Judith's face flushed crimson. No, she shouted, springing to her feet. Those are lies. She forged those herself. The judge arched a brow. Notarized documents are filed with the state. Are you accusing the state of Silverwood of fraud, Miss Cole? Judith sputtered, eyes darting wildly. It's a conspiracy. She's tricked you all. The judge set the papers down calmly. The only conspiracy I see is here in this courtroom. Ryan buried his face in his hands. And then Judith broke. Her chair screeched across the floor as she lunged forward, pointing at me with a trembling finger. She stole this house. She stole my son's future. Mom, stop, Ryan muttered, but she shoved him aside. Judith staggered a step, then suddenly collapsed, clutching her chest. She let out a guttural wail, falling to the carpet in front of the judge's bench. My heart, she screamed. She's killing me. I'm having an attack. Gasps filled the room. The bailiff rushed forward, kneeling beside her. Ma'am, stay calm. But when he checked her pulse, his brows knitted. He looked up at the judge, baffled. Her vitals are normal. Strong, even. The gallery erupted in murmurs. Judith wailed louder, pounding the floor with her fists. She wants me dead. She poisoned me. I stood frozen, every eye in the room on me. For a moment, the humiliation burned like fire in my veins. Then the judge banged her gavel, her patience gone. Order. This is a courtroom, not a theater. Mrs. Cole, control yourself, or I will have you removed. Judith's cries faltered. She looked up at the judge, realizing the performance had failed. The bailiff helped her back into her chair, none too gently. Ryan avoided her eyes, his face ashen. The judge turned back to me, her voice firm. Mrs. Cole, your documentation is compelling. Pending review, I am inclined to accept your evidence as credible and reject the plaintiff's claims. I exhaled slowly, my hands finally unclenching. Judith slumped in her chair, her chest heaving, her face twisted with rage. The meltdown had cost her more than dignity, it had cost her the case. And she knew it. The courtroom doors burst open with a metallic crash. 2 IRS agents strode in, badges raised, flanked by uniformed officers. Behind them, paramedics wheeled in a stretcher. The gallery gasped. The judge slammed her gavel. What is the meaning of this interruption? An agent held up a folder. Your Honor, we've received evidence of extensive tax fraud and financial manipulation tied to Judith Cole. Multiple fake loans, falsified debts, offshore transfers. Documents were submitted directly by Mrs. Vanessa Cole. Every head turned toward me. I sat still, calm, my hands folded neatly on the table. Ryan shot to his feet, shouting, "This is insane. She set us up. She forged everything." Judith clutched her chest again and collapsed back to the floor, wailing. My heart. I'm dying. The paramedics crouched beside her, checking her vitals. One of them snorted. Pressure normal. Pulse strong. Lady, you're healthier than I am. The gallery erupted in laughter. Even the judge covered a smirk behind her hand. Judith shrieked from the carpet. She's destroying us. Arrest her. But the agent didn't look at me. He turned his gaze on Judith. Mrs. Cole, you are under investigation for federal tax evasion, fraud, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes. You'll be remanded for questioning. The bailiff hauled her to her feet. Her pearls rattled against her chest as she struggled, screaming, "This is my family's house. Mine." The judge's voice cut through her hysteria like a blade. "Not anymore." Ryan lunged toward the bench, his face red with fury. "You can't just take everything from us. She tricked you. You don't understand." The judge glared at him. "Mr. Cole, sit down. This court is not blind to your deception. The documents you presented were fraudulent. Your testimony unreliable. And your conduct disgraceful." Ryan froze. The officers closed in, gripping his arms. He sagged in their hold, his rage collapsing into something smaller: fear. The judge straightened, her tone firm and final. "This court rules in favor of Mrs. Vanessa Cole. The Silverwood property is solely hers. The fraudulent claims are dismissed. Ryan Cole and Judith Cole will face separate criminal proceedings for fraud and tax evasion." The gavel cracked once, sharp and final. The sound echoed like thunder in my chest. The courtroom buzzed as papers were shuffled, chairs scraped, voices rose. But for me, it all went quiet. The clerk approached with a single form: ownership confirmation, deed transferred solely into my name. I lifted the pen. My hand was steady for the first time in months. My signature flowed across the page, clean and sharp. I set the pen down, exhaled, and whispered so only those closest could hear. "I built these walls in 3 years. Tonight, I built my freedom in 3 minutes." Judith's wails echoed down the hall as she was dragged away. Ryan stared at me over his shoulder, eyes hollow, before the officers pushed him through the doors. "And me?" I stood, smoothed my jacket, and picked up the deed that was finally completely mine. No forged signatures. No fake debts. No cosigners. Just me. Cold. Quiet. Free.